Hello and welcome back to the Crypto Bootcamp. This is Module 9, How to Operate in the Crypto Space. So as a continuation on our last module, How to Research a Coin, in this module I'm going to start out by talking about my thought process when going through researching a coin. So for example, let's say I just heard about this coin. In this case, I'm going to look at 0x. I just heard about 0x in the news, or my friend just told me about 0x, and it sounds interesting. I take a look at it on CoinMarketCap. I can see it's ranked number 25, so solidly in the top 100, certainly within the top 50. That's when we start to see really good projects that are more stable, aren't going to move around as much. With a market cap of 422 million, that's very well established. So right off the bat, I know that this is a solid coin that could potentially be a good investment. I can see its volume comparative to its neighbors is pretty average. It's got 545 million ZRX in circulation. So, that's pretty good. There's no real plus or minus there. And while this isn't really a big point to make, it is nice to see that it's holding up better than its neighbors comparatively. The day that we're recording this, there is a downturn in the market. You can see that it's doing much better than just about anything around it. So now I'm going to dig into its individual crypto page. We can learn a little bit more about it. So right off the bat, we can understand that the major trading pairs for this cryptocurrency are BTC and Ethereum. We can see that the circulating supply is about half of the total supply of 1 billion. Going down and looking at the price history, we can see that this coin has been through peaks and valleys, which, there's nothing really to say about that other than, I do like to see multiple series of price action. I don't want to just see a giant peak and then just nothing as it grinds into dust. That's pretty indicative of something that's been pumped and dumped. I want to see something that has a little bit more stability, has some price action. And compared to the price history, I can definitely see that were I to get in now, that's not too bad in terms of what we've seen, especially in about the past year or so, the trading of this coin. So moving on, now what I want to do is, this coin is basically passed my coin supply test. I like what I'm seeing from this coin. It does seem like it could be a good investment, just strictly on the basis of its coin supply and what I see on CoinMarketCap. Another thing I want to look at is where it's currently being traded. And yes, that's great. It's trading on Binance, it's trading on Coinbase, it's on other big exchanges like Bittrex. There's a lot of good pairs that you can trade against. I could even pick this one up for a fiat pair. So I could get this one off of Coinbase as a USD pair. So that's really promising to see. That means that there's a lot of depth to this coin in terms of its offerings. Were I to pick this up, I would probably either get it through Coinbase and just do a fiat pairing like that, or if I wanted to convert some crypto into ZRX, I could do so by first converting to BTC and then converting that BTC into ZRX on Binance. So now what I want to do is look into this project more. I want to learn more about this project, what it's doing, where it's going, who's working on it, all that sort of stuff. So to do that, I'll just click on the website link here. I'll be taken to the official website for the 0x protocol. Now, for the educational purposes of this video, I'm not going to get too in depth into what 0x is doing, but I can definitely see that they've got a good, well-designed website. It looks nice. It looks like as a platform, they've got some projects building on top of them. I've definitely heard of a couple of these decentralized exchanges in my time in crypto, so that's really good and reassuring to see. Now we've got a little breakdown of what the benefits are of 0x. So this is good for picking up some knowledge in terms of what they're trying to do and what sets them apart from their competitors. Then they've got sort of a mission statement, and you can learn more about their mission and values. This is also good. I definitely like to see that they're embracing some sort of mission statement, that they've got an objective and they're working towards that objective. Another great thing to point out on their website is the use cases. What problems are they specifically looking to solve? And it really looks like this site is not only oriented towards speculators, people who are looking to learn more and invest in this project, but also people who are looking to build on top of this project, developers, people who want to program on top of 0x protocol. And that's really reassuring to see. I really like seeing that, especially as a platform, that they have developer resources. We can see right here that there's an entire section devoted to the developer home, their JavaScript documentation, their smart contracts documentation. You know, we've got their white paper, which we'll check out in a sec. And then they've got their whole community section right here. So if you wanted to go on Rocket Chat, for example, or look at their blog, you can see their Twitter, check out their Reddit. This is all really great. And they've even got more information about their organization in terms of, you know, who's working for them and the careers potentially that you could work for them. So this is all laid out very well. I think there's a lot to take away from just the main page of their website. So far, so good. You know, I don't have very strong feelings about this, but it is a very positive website experience so far. So now, before I get going any further, I do want to check out their white paper. I want to see what's going on in terms of what they're doing. So it's really reassuring to see that their white paper is, you know, relatively easy to find. And now looking at it, it's very clear that this is designed to be a technical paper. There is no marketing fluff here. Based on my developer background, I know that this has been built using a coding language called LaTeX. It's just, you see this in a lot of research papers. This is the sort of format that they use and the sort of type. And basically it's just a very positive thing to see, because it tells me that this person, whoever wrote this paper, has a developer background if they're using LaTeX. What's great is that this paper is very well laid out. There's a nice amount of content, but it doesn't seem to get too in depth. There doesn't seem to be a lot of pages here, but what they do make a point of making is showing you what the solution is to the problem that they are demonstrating to you. And so we could really dive into this white paper. We could really talk about what it is that 0x is trying to do in terms of their protocol, in terms of what they aim to provide to developers and projects looking to build on top of them. But the main objective for us is just to see that they have a well-structured white paper, that it seems logically oriented, and that it seems like there's a capable team that are behind this white paper. We don't really need to understand everything that's going on here. It's certainly interesting. We could definitely talk about their protocol token or everything that's being relayed in this white paper, but we really don't have to go in depth here. We just want to see what's going on with 0x in terms of their technical white paper, and that they've definitely put some effort into it. So now I'll switch back to their actual website. What I do want to see is what's going on with their blog. I want to see what kind of information they're relaying to the public. Because unfortunately, I don't know if you noticed, there wasn't a roadmap for us to dive into. There wasn't anything laid out in terms of where the project's going. And especially the date for that white paper was February of 2017. And so this is almost 2 years later that we're checking out this project. So I want to see what's happened since they published that white paper. So now that's my mission to find out is, has the project developed in a positive way since they were initially formed and initially put out their mission? So I can definitely see that they've got a pretty active blog. They seem to publish as much as 3 times a month, and it looks like there's some really good activity going on here. They're talking about their new 0x protocol version 2.0. That's very good to see. They've got a bug bounty and advisory board update. That's also great to see. But if we look, we're still not seeing anything related to the roadmap and what they're doing in 2018 moving into 2019. So now I'm going to jump back to the CoinMarketCap page and look at their social tab. And specifically, I want to look at their subreddit, because maybe they're talking about it more with community members. So here their subreddit is, and we can see that there's about 15,000 people who are subscribed to this. So that's very positive to see. It looks like the subreddit is pretty active, post every day or so. And there's some really great content on here. You could see, what is 0x? A lot of good questions that people are asking. We can even sort by top and all time and see some of the biggest news announcements that have come out about 0x and read through some of these. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. There's a lot of really good headlines that are definitely interesting and we could definitely dig into. But again, our objective is to see, what are they doing? Where are they going? So I'm going to roadmap. I'm going to search for roadmap and make sure that I'm limiting my search to this subreddit. You can see that someone recently asked 26 days ago, what's going on with the roadmap? Is there a roadmap for 2018, 2019? And someone from the ZeroX project responded, our roadmap has changed quite a bit over the last 6 months, especially around governance. And we haven't yet communicated these changes externally. We will push an updated roadmap for the core team before the end of the year. Lots to discuss. So that's great. That sort of answers our question in terms of where it is they're going. Yes, we don't have details, but I can see that the team members are active with the community. That's definitely great to see. I want to see back and forth interaction between the community, that they're being supportive and the team is being receptive to questions from the community. So one other tip I would have about researching a project is to see what other people are talking about with regard to that project. Research concerns that people have, research things that people are saying and reviews that they've had. Make sure that you're not just staying within the project subreddit, but actually going to something like r/cryptocurrency subreddit and seeing overall what people are saying about the cryptocurrency as it relates to their concerns or what they're excited about. Because what you don't want to do is get siloed in and see opinions that are just in a vacuum. You want to see what concerns people have about this project, if any. And certainly a project that's in the top 25 is going to have people with opinions on either side of the fence. I definitely learn more from critics than I do from sycophants. And that's especially true in a space where people get very emotional about their investments. And then once I have sort of the understanding of everyone's opinion on that project, I'll do my best to validate whether or not the critics are right or the people who are supporters are right, or maybe it falls somewhere in between. Remember, this is an investment you're making with your money. These people should earn your investment. If I'm going to be investing in a project, that I understand it and that they deserve it. And so in a nutshell, that's how you research a project. You dive into every little facet that you can and understand as much as you can about a project. And importantly, you should be taking notes throughout this entire process. This is really important because you can refer back to these notes in the future should you want to possibly change your investment or reevaluate your investment. And again, this comes back to what I was saying in the earlier modules of this class. You need to have a plan. You need to understand where your investments are going and how you're making those investments. And I think a big piece of that is being so careful and meticulous with the investments that you make. It all comes back to research. Research puts you ahead of the game. It puts you on a whole other level versus other investors. So as promised, I want to finish out this module by talking about some of the different terms you might see used in the cryptocurrency space. Now, new terms are coming around all the time, and the space is definitely a space of constant evolution, but this should give you a very nice baseline in terms of if you run across any of these terms, you understand them because it isn't your first time hearing about them. So let's quickly run through some of the major terms you're going to see in cryptocurrency. Definitely one of the big ones is going to be bull market, or the term bullish. And this is really just relating to a market that is going up or has a positive bias. Essentially, more people are buying than selling. Next, we have bull trap, which is a false signal indicating that a declining trend in a stock or index has reversed and is heading upwards when in fact the security will continue to decline. So stated a different way, this is when the market's going down and then it briefly looks like it's going to go back up and then it heads down again. And so during that period where it looks like it's going to turn around, that's called a bull trap because it traps people thinking that the market's about to turn around, so they buy in and then nope, it keeps going down. So sort of the opposite of the bullish term, we have bearish. And this is basically to indicate that more people are selling than buying. And continuing that theme, we also have the bear trap, where the market's going up and it looks like it's about to reverse and go down, and then it goes back up. And this is a bear trap because it's catching people who are bearish, who think the market's about to go down, but nope, it continues to go up. After that, we have dead cat bounce, which is meant to indicate a small recovery after a price drop. The charts will often look like a ball bouncing or something akin to that. After that, we have dollar cost averaging, or DCA. And so this is an investment technique that you'll use when the market is going down. Essentially, you're just going to be buying in as the market's going down to lower your average buy-in price instead of just trying to buy all at once. This is a really good strategy for spreading out your risk, but it doesn't mean that you won't lose money, especially on riskier investments. After that, we have fundamental analysis, which we covered in the last module, but is essentially the method of evaluating a project or a coin in such a way that we're using the project's intrinsic value. We're looking at all the different pieces that comprise the project and trying to evaluate, hey, is this project going to go higher in the future or is it not? After that, we have ROI, or return on investment, which is simply a performative measure used to evaluate the efficiency of an investment. If you invest in something and a year later, it's 5% higher than your original investment, then your ROI was 5%. Your return on investment was 5% of your original investment. After that, we have shorting, or short. And to be short on a position is to anticipate a price drop. It's selling coins on margin. This is something you would do on a platform like BitMEX. But as someone new to this space, I do not recommend that you short a position anytime soon because it's very risky. Instead, you'll do the opposite, which is called going long. Last, for the market terms, we have technical analysis. And essentially, technical analysis is looking at charts and determining what to do next. There's many different indicators and price patterns and things that you can use to try to anticipate what's coming next. But ultimately, it's a tool for making decisions. It's not for predicting the future, as some people might have you believe. Technical analysis is usually used by traders, whereas something like fundamental analysis is more used by investors, but you can see a definite blend of the two. Next, let's talk about some of the slang terms you might see in crypto. One of the first ones we'll talk about is all-time high, which is certainly something exciting and hopefully something we'll see soon with things like Bitcoin. All-time high really just refers to the all-time high of the price of a coin. After that, we have altcoins, or alts. These are said to be alternatives of Bitcoin. Generally, it's used to refer to coins that are much smaller in value, but technically it can be used to refer to anything that is not Bitcoin. After that, we have ASIC. And so ASIC is basically a mining server that it's got one purpose in life, and that is to mine Bitcoin. After that, we have fiat, which is meant to refer to currency that is government issued. So this is the opposite of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, which are decentralized currencies. Fiat is a centrally controlled currency. Then we have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. It's essentially the feeling you get when you see the price going up and you're not in it, and you feel like you have to get in before it continues to go up. But FOMO is definitely the mark of a new investor or trader. After that, we have fork, or forking, which basically means a split in the blockchain, or rather, more accurately, one project is splitting off of a main project. So we've seen many Bitcoin forks where the true Bitcoin has been going since Satoshi Nakamoto introduced it, but we've seen many projects spin off or fork from Bitcoin and start their own version of Bitcoin. Why people like this is because when they do that, let's say if you had one Bitcoin, you'll now have one of this new coin as well, without having to do anything. So it's almost like free money. Next, let's talk about FUD, which is short for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is sort of characteristic of inexperienced traders and investors. And it's definitely something we see more in a bear market where people are said to be spreading FUD. Now, if you're trying to rile up people's fears, then people might call you a FUDster. After that, we have HODL, which is sort of an inside joke of the cryptocurrency community. It's a misspelling of hold, but it's also said to be an abbreviation of hold on for dear life. And it's basically the mantra of people who are investors, especially from the early times of Bitcoin, saying, hold on to your Bitcoin, do not sell. After that, we have ICO, or initial coin offering. And so ICOs are small coins that have been launched with the purposes of crowdfunding support. We definitely saw ICOs explode in 2017 as people realized that they could circumvent many of the traditional financial measures put in place for something like an IPO, initial public offering. And as I mentioned earlier in the class, ICOs are very risky and I would not recommend them for new investors or at all. Instead, focus on more established coins and coins that you can definitely do your due diligence and research into. After that, we have market cap, which is something we covered when we talked about coin market cap, but it's essentially the mark of how big a coin is. Next, we have masternode, which is simply a way to get rewarded for holding on to a large number of a certain coin. It has to be defined by the coins project. You know, for example, if you have 5,000 of this certain coin, you'll get a certain reward for holding that every month, every day, etc. So it's a really good way for making passive income, but also understand that by locking up so much investment, you could be missing out on other opportunities. Next, we want to talk about moon or mooning, which is just simply a way to refer to something that is shooting up in value. It's going to the moon. Next, we want to talk about proof of stake or staking. So something we really didn't talk about in this class is consensus mechanisms. And this is basically inherent into how blockchains work. Now, the only thing you really need to know between staking and mining, which you've heard of, is that staking doesn't require these ASICs to be sitting in a server farm and just mining away. Instead, it refers to people who lock up a large amount of coins and use that instead to secure the blockchain network. So I know that's a little bit confusing, but the basic thing to know about staking is that if a coin has staking, there's a good chance that by keeping your coins in a certified wallet, that you'll make a passive income every day or week or month or whatever is defined in the code of that coin. One good example of this is NEO, and based on the number of NEO you have, you earn a set amount of passive income called gas. And you can sell that gas for BTC. You know, it's a separate coin that gets issued to you on a certain amount and a certain basis based on how much NEO you have. So it's a really good way to make some extra money for not having to do anything. Meanwhile, we have the opposite, which is proof of work or mining, which is very hands-on. You really do have to be on top of it. And I really don't recommend mining for beginners or even people who are experienced with this space because it requires so much upfront capital. It requires so much management of your ASICs. It requires you to really be on top of what is the most efficient way to do things. It's just not for the average layperson. You really have to run it like a business. So unfortunately, the mining from home dream is really dead at this point, and I really don't recommend it for most people. Lastly, we'll talk about pump and dump, which is referring to when a small group of people say, hey, let's go after that coin, and they buy a bunch of it really quickly, and that causes people to react and say, oh my gosh, that coin is mooning, I better get into it right now. And then the original group dump. So this is a pump and then a dump. And so all the people who jumped in after the coin started pumping are left with what are known as bags. You know, these coins that are now worthless because they bought at the high and now the price is dumped because everybody sold all at once. So don't chase pumps. I keep saying that over and over, but you will get burned if you try to participate in pump and dump groups, if you try to chase after a coin that's pumping. You just don't want to be in that situation because it's not fun. It's not fun wondering if you'll ever make your investment back. So just don't do it. And so with that, we're done with this module. Moving on, we're going to cover sort of a high-level summary of this class and things that I recommend that you do next after this class in the next module. So thanks for watching.